you start again there where you started telling me that so we can get it on?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, when the armies did come, and then they took the chief as a hostage to take him to Polson until the day they got Pascal, and they take him in, then they let the chief go. So they did. They took him and they left him in that ship, the boat they call Klondike boat, and he was living in there, staying in there. But on the way, he had some of his people with him. He said, it's a shame that I don't want to start battle on account of the sake for the children's and my elders, the old people. I could do it if it wasn't for them too. The elders and the children's, there's thousands of us Kootenays, we could have a battle with them. But we don't want to do that. So when you people get back, I'm going to tell you people what to do. You ask for a meeting, Indian meeting, the following night. And he's about to come around. And if he does come around again, you tell him there's a meeting, they need you in there. They're kind of putting out what they can do with you so you could escape, you know, from the people and go elsewhere. Probably thinking you could go further on up. And in the meantime, if he does go in, you smoke your peace pipes and make him sit right alongside with the sub-chiefs and the others. And when they pass the peace pipe, and just as you're handing the peace pipe to him, and when he's ready to grab, you grab him. Then you tie him, then take him in, because he looked for it. It's his own hard luck. I wouldn't want to see him go that way, but he did wrong. And that's how they got him. They did exactly what Chief left here for his people to do. And that's how they caught him, and they took him in on down. When he got there, they took him and then they turned Chief. And there was about, I don't know how long after that they got hung. There was others along with him. That's how it was.
Okay. Let me switch topics a little bit and ask about diseases during your lifetime, or that your parents told you about, either way, or grandparents. I'd just like to know what your experience has been with epidemics or diseases coming through Elmo or Dayton, and what the effect has been on the Kootenai people.
Yeah, there was epidemic 3 different times through different years. They claim, my grandparents used to say, there was thousands and thousands of Kootenays. At one time, in the olden days, they was scattered all over, not only here, they'd be out the other way. And they would be, many of them would even winter out, somewhere out in the forest. And the epidemic came. The first epidemic that come was, I understand it was smallpox. And it killed quite a few. Meaning families would go. One family, there'd be nobody left, different families. Some families would be lucky for 1, 2 living out of families. And that wiped out quite many of the Kootenays that affected that epidemic of smallpox. And then they got okay again. It went along within a year or two. And then here come another epidemic. The old white people used to call it quincy, meaning diphtheria now. You call it diphtheria. Tonsillitis, then diphtheria. That wiped out lots more of the Kootenays too. And that's how come there's very little left. Yeah, they were hit by 2 epidemics.
Joe and Tis was telling me 3.
Well, they must have been 3.
Smallpox, diphtheria, and measles.
Yeah, well, measles. Yeah, measles at other time. But that's, yeah.
He said that after one of them, the government came in and burned up everything the Kootenays owned.
Yeah.
Teepees and all that.
Well, I imagine it did. They did.
Yeah. You don't?
No, I
have
don't
any
know.
story about
That's
that?
all I know. Grandma told me is just those epidemics wiped off the Kootenays. There were so many of them.
Yes.
And it took them.
Well, what Joe was telling me that was interesting was that they even tried to burn the medicine bundles.
Mm-hmm.
But at least 7 bundles were saved by people who, Joe and Teast had a grandfather who was a medicine man and had a cabin that they didn't burn up, and they took these down there and they hid them up in the rafters of his house.
Yeah.
I was going to ask a question about that because I wonder if you could tell me how the Kootenai people were able to keep their native spiritual beliefs when, for instance, many of the Flatheads went more to the Catholic way. Up here it seems that the Kootenai spiritual beliefs stayed strong to a greater degree or among a larger number of people.
Yeah, that's what we don't want to talk about.
Okay.
Cut you off there.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
Okay. That's something to keep within.
Yeah, well, there's a few in that culture.
Yeah.
And they said that whoever wants to know it, they better go there. Patricia, his word is there for us not to.
Okay.
So,
All right. I respect that.
yeah.
Okay. How about talking about Kerr Dam now? Since that's the point of it. I'd like to know first what that, it's getting hot.
Yeah. I always tell my people that sometime, not too long from now, when there's more Republicans in the Congress, and we'll have a president that won't like Indians, and they'll make a law that they're going to take this reservation away from us old people. Just few more of us left, and we're the backbone of this reservation. When we're all gone, and my grandchildren and all the old-timers' grandchildren, most of them will turn into white people like the way it is now. And it's going to be worse. There's going to be hardly any more Indians. And then that's the time. I won't see it. I'm getting right up there now. But my children will see that's what's going to happen to them.
Is there any chance that won't happen?
What did you say?
Well, is there any way people can help keep that?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of ways that we could, like they have in schools, and try to teach the young kids to keep their language. That's one thing. And there's a camp out. The Flatheads there have their camp, and they live in like the old time ways of living. A lot of people send their kids up there to be up there with this one old lady, and to learn how to make dry meat and different things like that, and try to live like the old timers used to live. And there's a lot of different things that we're trying to encourage the young people to come back to the old Indian ways of living. And that's one way that we could keep our Indians to keep their language, and that way we might last a little longer than I've said, that in the near future there's going to be nothing but just like white people.
Is there ways that you think the money from Kerr Dam could be used that could help in these ways?
Yes, there is. There's a lot of ways that our Kerr Dam money could be used, but the half-breeds, they don't look at it that way. They want to put their money in where they'll get their money back, and then to make money. Like where I'm sitting is my new home here, and next place is we call the Roundhouse, and we're going to use that Roundhouse for a lot of different things in the Indian ways. And a lot of half-breeds didn't like that. They're still kicking about that because this Roundhouse isn't making any money for them. It's doing a lot of good for us Indians, and only us Indians will know how precious this Roundhouse is to us in our own way of looking at it. But the half-breeds don't understand that, and the Roundhouse isn't going to make any money for them. And that's how we should keep on using the Kerr Dam money to be more in the Indian ways, to use it in the Indian ways. And but the half-breeds will want to put the money where they'll make money on it, and then most of them will go to schooling and all different things like that.
Can you give me some other ways also that the money could be used, like roundhouse, what other things it could help with, that could help with the keeping the Indian ways going strong?
That's about all that I can say is about this roundhouse, and I think I'll pass this on to Adeline to answer the rest of this question about the Kerr Dam money.
Okay. Thank you. Adeline, would you like to add something?
About the Kerr Dam money? Yes. When they had the settlement, when they continue, us Indians continue leasing out the Kerr Dam, after 50 years had expired, beginning in 1930, when they had a big encampment right there in St. Ignatius. And at that time, in 1930, when Mr. Kerr come around that he wanted to lease the fall and convert it into dam. And I know quite a few people that were camping there. As for us Kootenays, there was quite a few of us that moved there, and we stayed in our camps because we kind of lived far away from the mission. And I was there. And this 4 years ago, when it expired, and they started having meetings and trial, even though in Missoula, and they count on me. They went throughout the reservations to meet with the elders at my age and even older. Asked the people, the Indian people, if they were there at the time in 1930 when they were gathered there about the dam they could lease it out. And I remember that day, my grandfather, Chief Custara, was the chief at that time. Chief Mathias was the sub-chief. And Charlo was the chief of Arlee. And I think Michelle was the chief of Ronan. And I was there all throughout the 5 days of the encampment there, and they used to hold the meetings every day at the building they called Equity Hall. And where the encampment was across the creek. Right now they have that electric things, what do you call that? Substation of Mission there. It wasn't there yet then. And that's where the camps were. And this is what I said when I went to Missoula and they asked me to go. Teresa Wall has asked me many questions. She used to come around my place when I was living in Hot Springs. And she would ask me some questions about it when she finally knew that I was only one living that was there at the time in 1930, and I was a very young lady, but I also had 2 children. And what little I do know then, and I passed it on to Teresa Wall, and she felt that she thinks that I should be there at that meeting in Missoula. That morning, can't say the dates and what month it was when we all gathered in Missoula there, and they asked me. Oh, they were meeting with the councilmen, some of the councilmen. Theriault was one of them, I can remember that. And there were several others. And they put my time after 1 o'clock, after dinner, then I would take the stand. And they had Theriault and several others to take the stand and answer questions to the people that were there. Well, Mr. Kerr is gone now, though, but then the others were there, you know, plus Judge and several lawyers that were there. So I had to wait till after dinner, and then my young